But the question that comes to mind for me is the application cycle still is traditionally they open in like the fall, they end in like the late winter, early spring typically. But now if the LSAT is round the clock, when is too late to apply for the cycle? I mean, now we're recording this in January. January LSAT is the end of the month. Is that too late? Is the next year February?
Yeah, and I'm so curious what your experience has been this year with the new, with the new LSAT schedule, this cycle. What I have found, and of course, we're a limited data set. I don't want to generalize too much, but what we've been seeing is that having the later LSAT dates basically gave people just another excuse to procrastinate some more and kick that can down the road. So we're seeing people show up with, the November scores and now thinking, oh, I'll take it again in January, or maybe I'll take it again in March, whereas, in the grand scheme of things, this is all kind of late in the game, right? I mean, schools are already making offers every single day that goes by, right? So as I say, starting early is so important because I think it doesn't benefit applicants in any way to kick that can down the road. And so those extra dates and kind of pushing it out, I think, with as in the law, they call that an attractive nuisance. So, I think those later and more frequent test dates might lead people to adopt a timeline that is not in their best interest. I think in terms of the admission cycle, it still benefits people who apply early. I would love it if people have all of their LSAT scores or GRE scores by, say, September 1, because then you've got those locked down and then you can finalize a list of schools and start working on these applications. Until you finalize your list of schools, it could be a lot of make work. If you have your heart set on Stanford and then you get your score back, well, Stanford's application is a little different from Berkeley's, a little bit different from UCLA or USC, right? So it really mucks with things when you're still waiting for this really important data point, right? And it's really important factor in your application. So I don't think that's changed anything in terms of the application cycle. However, what I have seen in the last several years is that law schools have been really stretching out their decision-making timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you submit your application nice and early, you might not have heard anything from them even by their deposit date in April, which I find shocking and unprofessional because they're so quick to, take your application fee and then you hear nothing from them. Kind of appalling, but they've really stretched out their decision making so long that the impression I'm getting is that for that deposit deadline, they're making offers to people they really want and for their first choices, and then they wait and see what comes back, right?
Yeah.
And then they know how many more slots they have to fill, and of course, even people who put down deposits can always withdraw and put down a deposit somewhere else if they get off a wait list. So there's all this stuff that happens after the deposit deadline. And I've seen so many offers get made after the deposit deadline. So even when someone comes to us really early, I give them the heads up that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And you really need to hang in there up through the summer before orientation starts because there's still movement happening then. I don't like that system. I think it's horrible for applicants. I mean, if you get that call in July, you might have to move across the country. You might have a spouse who has to move jobs or whatever, right? You have to deal with housing. It's just goofy to have these important things happen so late, but they're kind of hedging their bets too, right? Because they know that people are applying to so many schools, and even with deposits, it becomes this collective action problem because because so many decisions are still being made or offers are being made over the course of the summer. That means you still have this musical chairs during the summer. I mean, it's terrible for admissions officers too. I wish they would just kind of fix this. I mean, you don't see that so much with undergrad admissions or MBA admissions because they have a round. It's not necessarily rolling at the more selective colleges. They have a date by which you submit your application, and there's a date by which you get a response, right? And it's just predictable, and you might not get the answer you want, but you know when it's coming, right? And then depending on what that answer is, you can then make decisions going forward without whether you want to apply somewhere else or take this offer or that offer. But with law schools, it's just this gigantic can of worms for the entire cycle. it's a mess. It's a mess. So as I say, applicants really need to hang in there.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.